For almost 50 years, Midway USA has been America's go-to source for just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Go to midwayusa.com to see our latest deals and promotions and take advantage of our super fast same-day shipping. If you need a cooler, a new fishing rod, another rifle, ammo, or a reloading press, you can find it all at midwayusa.com. Thanks for your business. Midway USA has an extensive selection of bullets, providing top-notch performance and accuracy for the cartridge you plan on reloading. If you plan to hunt, shoot competitively, plink at the range, or even load up some self-defense rounds, Midway USA has the popular brands, calibers, diameters, and grain weights of bullets you are searching for. First-time reloaders, bulk bullet buyers, and seasoned specialty shooters begin their search for bullets at Midway USA. For just about everything for reloading, shop midwayusa.com.
Sitting up there jacked with Pepsi.
I'm there for the pack out. You just got to pack me in.
Committed to the bow early on. Like, I love getting close and putting up.
You cover a range of stuff on here too, right? Like,
we call this the THP World Headquarters.
You know, my grandpa Roy Weatherby.
I came into like that golden little pocket where there was like 4 or 5 different bowls. Just
You're Canadian? We're doing a Canadian podcast?
My name's Douglas Bode.
I'm Robbie Denning.
Roy Candy.
So, how you been, bud?
Busy.
Yeah.
Busy and tired.
The last time we had you on, we did a night show, so we were able to have a couple drinks. Now, I don't know about what's in Pete's coffee cup.
I'm not going to say.
But it's a little too early for drinking.
It's never too early.
Oh, I see.
Wintertime is like being down in Mexico. In Mexico, as soon as you wake up, it's free game.
How's the weather down there, Chris? Is it still winter down there?
No. Actually, it's been really bad for my normal day job. So it's been way too warm. It's been like 58.
Oh, wow.
Like
that is.
Nights have been 45, something like that Fahrenheit. And we even had a couple 62, 65 degree days.
Wow.
That
like
never happens.
What, Kevin? Is that like 10 degrees Celsius?
18. I have to put it in my phone here.
18.
You figure with all the fucking like guests we do with Americans, I would have this shit like, because like you ask my old man, my dad, he can tell you right away.
We need little cheat sheets right beside the computer. Just
Maybe.
conversions.
Yeah, and like metric to like imperial, all that stuff. Like just have the Canadian to US dummy sheet here.
Yeah, it's 38. We got 38 last night. It's sunny, so it'll probably be 55 today.
Wow. Yeah, it was 18 degrees Celsius here, or sorry, 12 degrees Celsius here yesterday. So pretty warm.
Yeah.
How about you, Corey? You still covered in a blanket of snow?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's getting cold again. It was really nice, and then now it's like on site it's been like all iced up. Turbines full ice, tons of ice. It's been super foggy and icy. Last night it was like it had to have been minus 19 again, Celsius.
Wow.
Yeah. Felt like it.
Yeah.
We're finally cooling off enough here just to keep things frozen, which is nice. It finally got back down to minus 10 Celsius, but we're heading right back to that minus 5, which is the sweet spot. Just keeps everything frozen and no mess, but
I'm just going to fix my light. You guys keep chatting for a second.
Yeah. We need some snow here. Otherwise, we're going to be in some big trouble when it comes to summertime again with no snowpack.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like the Old Man River, like where I normally go fly fishing. It's like low, like historic low. Like it didn't even get high enough to be in the safety zone, and then they're selling all the water. Pretty crazy.
What do you mean they're selling all the water?
Well, because it's part of irrigation.
Oh.
Yeah, down towards like the agro.
Yeah.
But it's just each year it's getting lower and lower and lower, and like the irrigation is getting that pressure, right? Everyone's irrigating, but the headwater has just been terrible. Like I went fishing, and normally where I'm catching big 20-inch trout, there's nothing in there. Just super low, like big deep pools, nothing there. and the fish were
Crazy.
so hot. It just, they were doing shutdowns, so they could only fish in the morning until 2, and then they'd shut down. That's just puts a damper on everything, because you get out real early, try and hit some holes that you got to hike into, and by the time you're just getting into them, you got to head home.
Crazy. Yeah, they're starting to do that in some of our streams around here. All of southern BC. Kind of, you got a time limit when you can fish. Sucks.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just get rolling, boys, so Chris can get on his day and Pete can do whatever it is Pete does during the day.
Going fishing.
And drink bourbon
Drink bourbon
or whiskey.
rum.
I don't know.
Oh, love my rum.
What do you drink in that fish? What do you drink in that fish shack?
Whatever keeps me warm.
I still to this day don't know how you sit in that freezing cold.
It's not freezing cold. We got either wood stoves in them or there's a propane heater in them. I fish in a t-shirt, even if it's -20. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the way to go, man.
All right.
Go with that and shooting my bow. Either way.
Yeah.
Good day.
You shoot it in there?
No, not in there, but down in the basement anyway. It's all nice and
okay.
warm in the winter for me now.
Yeah, you're set up.
Yeah.
So, Chris, on the archery side of things, how things going?
Good. Busier than I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people don't say that, but again, with a standard 9-to-5 job, doing it on the side,
Yeah, I get that.
I can only take on so much.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And that, do you find this time of the year, kind of what I wanted to get you back on and talk about, like what guys should be doing to their bows this time of the year? I have a feeling, like I know for a fact, a lot of guys right now, their bows are sitting either in their case or on a rack or in their closet or in the back of the truck, someplace they shouldn't be. And they're not, number one, they're not shooting enough. But at the end of the year, we should all go through our bow, check the tuning and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, now's the time. It's everybody waits, especially with string orders, and replacing their strings. Oh yeah, I probably need one before next season, but this one will make me through the summer. And then August, I get just tons of people like, hey, can I get new strings? And I have to tell some of them no, because the string builder I use, he stops taking orders a lot of times August 1st because he can't build enough. I mean, he's so backed up that he'll never get done before season. So, I have had, like every other, tuner out there, I've had people, I was putting their bow back together 2 days before season or a day before season. And that's like the worst,
That's crazy.
And the people that argue, well, I don't want to shoot my new strings all summer because then what? Why?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Why?
I'd want
you want to do that.
Yeah.
Take care of it all summer. It'll be just fine. It'll last you all season. You won't have a problem. Strings should last a couple years, honestly, unless you shoot a ton. If you shoot a ton, you don't take care of it, then it lasts a year. But fine.
I shoot a ton and I don't take care of it. So
a year
to that care.
and that's fine. I mean, a year, but getting a full year, and quite honestly, once season rolls around, how many guys are actually shooting every day or the volume they were shooting up until season, right? You're out hunting,
That's
and so the volume that you're shooting goes down. So there's just no good argument to not do your strings early that I've ever heard from anybody.
So what I do is I get a new bow around this time every year, and then I have the strings on it. I'll set it up with my peep sight, get my D loop on, and then I'll shoot it a bunch, and then I'll put custom strings on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll shoot those all till keep shooting them till maybe beginning of August. And then I'll put another new pair of custom strings on it. And I always have my extra strings as backup in case something happens throughout the season. Yeah. Then I got an extra pair of strings.
Yeah. I'd say you're a little more extreme than most people that I deal with as far as shooting and needing strings. Most guys, they get a brand new bow. They'll shoot, some of them only put, 200, 300, 400 shots through the bow, maybe more. And then put new strings on it. I've had people bring me a brand new bow that they didn't shoot at all and say, put new strings. I want custom strings. So,
really?
Yeah, but I always have people keep their old set as a backup. I can't tell you how many times I've, even if they're trash, You know, if somebody brings me a bow and their strings are just trashed from last season, I don't want to throw them away. Well, do you have an extra set? No. Okay. Well, then you need an extra set.
Yeah.
Like these will do in a pinch because you cut them during season, which I've had 3 or 4 people come in with cut strings during season.
Mhm.
I can't get you new ones, and most places can't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the main reason I keep them, is just in case. I mean, I have a backup bow as well, but I just like having, if something happens, I just like having my extra strings. I hate being down because something that I could have avoided. Like, and that's easy to avoid. Like strings, I mean, it all depends, I guess, on how much you're into it. If you're shooting a couple, 100 arrows a day, then you're gonna go through the strings. I don't know. Like Pete, how many pairs of strings did you go through last year?
Oh, I need a new set right now. My strings are stretched to shit.
Now, is that the
And-
second pair set you went through last year?
No, this is the set I put on late last year.
Was that
but
after
yeah.
the Nationals or before the Nationals?
Before the Nationals. Just before the Nationals, I got this one just tweaked up enough. So yeah, it's, I mean, I can't tell you how many, it's not hundreds. Hundreds is a week. It's how many thousands and thousands of shots go through this bow. And I was lucky because 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, well, unlucky. I cut my strings like what you're talking about. Shit happens, right? But it was in August. And I got just enough time to break them in. I'll probably put a couple thousand, well, probably, I bet you 1,000 or 2,000 shots through it. Went through hunting season. So like you say, you're not shooting a ton. And then come this time of year, I took them off. Everything's set on them. Like, I mean, they're mint. They're awesome. Everything's tied in. Got a new set of strings on, and I kept that set because everything was just broken in enough. Like they weren't at the end of their life by any means. I could throw those strings on just as long as I get them twisted up to the similar poundage. I don't have to do a lot of adjusting for my sight tapes or anything either, which is the other thing you got to think about. Don't want 2 days before and you're trying to break in strings and
Yeah,
you got a movable sight and like you got to think about that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely, for sure. So while we're on this conversation, Chris, what effect does the type of string have on your bow? Like, like 452X or BCY 99, like how much does that affect?
so depending on the string material will depend on how much they actually will stretch. And it also comes down to how well the builder pre-stretched them. But then for what I found is, fuzziness, how much they pick up dirt. A lot of that has to do with how much wax you put in them. But then also how loud the bow is, the thickness of the string. Does my knock fit well? Because the string's so thick with the serving over the top that, my knock's now getting sticky or stickier than it should be. But realistically, and I have no way to quantify it, but what I found is that like on certain string materials, the shot didn't feel as soft or as smooth. It had a little more harshness to it. It was a little bit louder. For me, I'm kind of one of those guys, like I experiment a ton, and then when I find what works, I stick with it. And it's kind of like the tried and true. That's why 452X, every customer's order, that's what they get is 452X for me right now. I don't do anything else because it's been the tried and true that I've found so far. God, back in the day, what was it, the SK99, and there's been some others that I tried. The 99 was all right, and it was very rock solid, but it was a little harsh on the shot versus the 452X. Again, that's just a feel thing. I don't know how to quantify that, but it felt different on the same bow. I had 3 different sets of strings I swapped around, and the 452X just felt better. But you'll also find when you have to have thicker strands, and your string overall's thicker, then your bow at the same poundage will be a little slower. You can lose a couple feet per second, just based off of the weight of the string and how thick it is.
Yeah. So now the 452, that's a little thicker than like the 99, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it is, but it's worked well for me. 452, I know everybody likes the really, really bright colors, the more neutral colors and natural colors, kind of the thinner the string, but my builders,
the guy who builds my strings, he's always like, you should go with black. That doesn't look cool, man.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
like
but
fluorescent orange is the thickest. Like the amount of dye they got to put in that.
Okay, now I was lately I've been doing a little bit of research on bowstrings, and holy moly, there's another rabbit hole a person can go down, and materials and stuff like that. One thing I was reading that I had no idea about, what is it about the different colors? Like it seems like a lot of different colors will stretch more than your basic colors. What is it about that? That
You know,
what causes that?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, um, you know, if you really want to get a couple people on that are super knowledgeable with strings, you know, you get Austin from High Voltage, Tom from Parkinson's Strings. Those guys know a ton about the materials and what they do more than others. I don't know why they would stretch more. That actually seems odd to me. I know they're thicker, so maybe it's just that you know, the thickness of the string where it took the dye in, and you know, as you shoot more, it's kind of losing some of that, and so they stretch a little bit because the thickness goes down.
yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So
And that's just a
Pete,
guess. I'm not sure.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's probably a lot of variables, and it probably has something to do with the ink they put into it, I'd imagine. Pete, you mentioned something that I kind of want to talk to you about, Chris, is like string twists and stuff. I know a lot of guys, like guys that I talk to, guys that message me, and they're like, how much string twist should I be putting into my string when I'm putting new strings on? And I just say, well, first of all, if you're unsure, maybe take it to your archery shop and get them to put it on for you and just talk to them about it. But so if guys that I know, a lot of guys lately, they've been buying presses and stuff just because it's so hard. I know these pro shops, especially up here, pro shops were few and far between before. But as the older guys are getting, you know, they're retiring, there's a lot less young guys filling their spots. So taking your stuff taking it to a pro shop or an archery shop isn't just, you know, your bow could be sitting there for a while while they get a chance to work on it. Because I mean, one guy could only do so much, right, in a 8-hour day. So if you are buying your own strings and you're putting them on, you get them out of the package. Should we be twisting those strings before we put them on, or just putting them on as is?
No. So any good builder should have built to the exact specs that the bow needs. So they should have already been twisted enough that they match the specs that they should be. The only twist you should be putting on is once you've put the bowstrings on and you're going through your tune process and you're checking cam timing. Now you got to start putting some, you know, maybe a twist or two in one of your cables to get your cams timed correctly. Otherwise, you shouldn't be twisting them at all. Now, if you get strings that come untwisted, that's a problem. Because, right, how do you know the right length? I mean, now you're just total guessing game. You know, so that should never be a thing. And they should be, when they come in the package, they should be tied. So when the string builders build these, they twist them, they get them the exact right length. They take them off their jig, you know, and then they essentially tie the two end loops together with something, you know. It could be a zip tie. It could be, you know, I see them come with paper clips all the time, right?
Yeah.
When you take those off, you don't want them to untwist or anything. Take them off, put them on that exact length. If your builder's any good, they should be really, really, really close. And your cam timing should be close. And you just need to put a twist or a half a twist, you know, in one of the cables to get the cam to time correctly. And after that, you should stop.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I mean, you will check poundage and brace height, right? Just to make sure that something's not really off. I've had strings come in before, not from Austin at High Voltage, but I've had strings come in before where all of a sudden, you know, I got a 70-pound bow, they make 67 pounds.
Yeah.
But the cam timing was correct. It's like, okay, well, obviously our cables are off by an 1/8 inch or something, you know.
Yeah,
so couple twists in each one, keep cam timing correct, you know, and it doesn't take much, and pretty soon that poundage, boom, right back up to 70.
Right on. Okay. You mentioned tuning. Now I want to get into tuning. So when guys, like right now, what should guys be doing with their bows? Like they're not bringing them in to see you. What should they be doing? Or kind of like walk us through what you're doing. Probably better if you just walk us through. I've shot, I haven't shot in a month now. I want to get back into shooting, just say. What would I be doing? Like, what would you be doing to my bow to get it ready for me to start shooting again? After, like, minus, the fact that we just assume that we're putting new strings on it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's just kind of clean everything up, make sure that all your bearings are still good, nothing's rusted up. Depending on the type of rest you have, make sure the rest is functioning properly still. Make sure your peep rotation's still good. If we put new strings on, then that's not, generally an issue. But, for guys that don't need a new set of strings, right now it's just a little bit of care for what you had, clean the strings up, make sure that everything's, around here, right? Oregon, we hunt in the rain all the damn time. Like our bows, our strings, our rests are all subject to a ton of rain. So, just make sure everything's still functioning properly and then go shoot. There's not a ton to do other than let's do everything we need to do before season now and not wait till August, right? Any new arrow builds you want to do because, you want to say, I wasn't happy with this arrow. The time is now. Start right now. All the new products, ATA just happened, right? All the new products are out. They're or becoming available. So all the stuff you want to change, get it done now. Test everything out so you can have your finalized bow, ready at least a couple months before season where everything's rock solid. Your stabilizers, you've changed all that. The weight you're going to use with your stabilizers, you've changed. Your new sights on, your sight tapes on. You've shot your broadheads. They're going to function. Now's the time to test everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I run the same thing on my bow all the time. I just put it from one bow to another. I mean, obviously, like sights get worn out and rests get worn out or to get bumped and bent and you have to get a new one. But for the most part, it's pretty much identical, just going from one bow to the next. I kind of found, same with the arrows. I've shot those arrows, those TKOs now for quite a while. And actually, I think the last time we talked was when I was just switching from the full metal jackets over to a carbon arrow.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, now's the time too. Like if you've got creaks that are happening in the bow when you draw, limb pockets are dry, right? Let's pull the bow apart if we need to. We don't always have to. You don't need to do that every year. Mm-hmm. I don't think, but if you're having those issues, again, let's pull the bow apart. Let's grease some limb pockets, and let's just clean everything up.
Yeah. What kind of grease does the person use for that? Say the limb pockets and stuff, you pull it apart.
I just use I won't say any grease, but even the automotive grease that it doesn't smell is fine. I've never found a specific grease, but anything that's going to hold up, it's why I use the automotive stuff. I just try and find stuff that doesn't smell, and isn't, you don't need a lot on there, just a little bit. What I usually do is I put it on and then I wipe most of the excess off, so it just leaves a little bit. I know there's different lubes and there's all sorts of things. So people will probably disagree with me, but I've never had a manufacturer tell me you have to use this lube.
Yeah, I don't really think it matters. It's something I use electrical grease because it's very, very little, like almost no smell to it.
Just that dielectric stuff.
Yeah. And it seems, it works fine.
I can just picture me walking into Napa, into the grease section, popping the end off and smelling all the different brands.
Yeah.
I've got a winner right now.
I was thinking now that you and your old lady are to have no kids in the house, you'd be using a different kind of lube for your bow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, maybe that's the new thing, right? Try that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cherry flavor. Oh, perfect.
No, the automotive grease has always worked well for me. It's so thick, like just a little bit on my finger, wipe it on everything. It doesn't take much, guys. It's just like wax. I know people that way over wax their stuff, like there's just no point, and that's one of the big things I see with strings is either people that never, ever, ever wax them. And I've heard people say, well, don't ever wax your strings. And then people that wax everything. And
Oh yeah, like serving and everything. Yeah.
oh
D-loop
God, yeah.
fucking, it's like, what are you doing with that wax, man? Like,
There's
Jesus.
wax like stuck in the channels in the cam.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just caked on everywhere. Like the only thing you actually need to wax, the only thing is the actual string itself, not the cables.
Yeah.
You know, very rarely do I ever put any wax on a cable. The only time I will is if they're starting to look really dried out, I'll put a little bit, but they don't take the beating that the string takes.
Yeah.
And
there's
you
not
only
as
need
much
to
violent movement. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing you need to put it on is the string itself where it's exposed, not where the serving is. So what do you have on most, you've got like 4 to 6 inches or whatever, 3 to 4 inches above the center serving, and then down below a little bit, and then half of them have another piece of serving in it for the string stop, and then a little bit below that. I mean, there's not a lot of area, and you get it, I always get it when I do that. I show people all the time. I get it nice and hot with my fingers. I stopped using leather. I used to use leather, but you actually can burn your string itself using a piece of leather, getting it too hot. So I use only my fingers, rub it up and down the string. And when my fingers get hot to the point where, okay, I'm probably gonna, it's getting uncomfortable, or I'm gonna end up like having a rug burn or something on my fingers, that's when I stop. It's melted in. I take a clean, like white rag. I don't know why I like to use white, but I do. And I wipe it back off. Because what you want is you want the wax inside the string, not necessarily built up on the outside. If it's all built up on the outside, 1, you're adding weight. 2, that all that dust and everything else, it's just sucking it all in there.
Yeah, it's not penetrating string. And I think a lot of guys do that. They just wax it, rub the wax on, and that's it. They don't actually work it in there, get it into the individual, like work it in so it's getting into the inner fibers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cleaning off your string after, like, I know for me, going on a ton of mule deer stalks, and I know damn well I'm getting dust, debris in there, and just caking it on, to just go back whenever you get to the truck or something, just cleaning it off, checking it.
Yeah, and the thing is putting more wax kind of on the top helps you clean that off, right?
Yeah.
It gives it something to stick to. So a little bit of wax over the top, wipe it right back off.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how much dirt and crap comes out of it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
string looks pretty damn good afterwards. But
Yeah.
At what point visually would you recommend to people when they're looking at their strings that you do put some wax on it?
I think when they really start to fuzz out and it just looks dry, I don't know how to describe it looking dry necessarily, other than it fuzzing out. But that's when a little bit of wax, and I'm talking a little bit, goes a long way. Like at my shop, I am still on the same tube of wax that I had 5 years ago. And I wax, I like customers that come in to have me retune their bow, not the new ones. I don't put wax on the new ones. Don't need to. String builders got all that. But guys that come in just for a bow tune, every one of them gets a little bit of wax. And I'm still on the same original tube because it just takes so little. It's, 1, maybe 2, just wipes right on and then go.
Yeah. Hey, Pete, what was the name of that? We were talking back and forth about those bowstrings that didn't need to be waxed. Do you remember what those were? Have you ever heard of those, Chris?
I think that was A3, and I think that was the premium series, and I can't remember. I'd have to look up what string material that was.
I was curious about that because, like, I'm thinking, like weather plays such a huge role in like your strings, especially if it's hot or freezing cold or shooting in the freezing cold. I find those strings will, like, they just seem to like fluff a lot quicker than they do just normal temperatures. Have you ever heard of that, Chris? The strings that don't need to be waxed?
I've heard of strings. I've heard of different products that's different than wax, and people claiming that they don't need to be. There was, what was it? Scorpion venom was a product that was out for a while that was a liquid that you didn't need to put wax on. You put the scorpion venom on.
So essentially it's the same thing. You're still servicing their string.
Yeah, a little bit on those. Winner's Choice used to have I can't remember if it was a string itself, but I know they had like a weatherizing kit or something because, here in Oregon with all the rain, you go out, like your strings can look perfect. You spend 1 day late season blacktail hunting in the rain and, you're beating the brush at all, and your strings look like they're 100 years old. I mean, they're just trashed.
Yeah, it's funny. I went on a coastal deer hunt, and I live on the interior now. I went on a coastal deer hunt, and like it was wet, really wet there, but just being on, and like I was hunting on an island, and just with the amount of salt in the air, my bow
yeah.
came back, and every single piece of metal, every screw, everything that wasn't aluminum was completely rusted. I was like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my God, I had to replace every screw on every, like limb screws, all the screws on my sight on that spot hog I replaced. They're just, I couldn't believe the rust on it. I was like, oh my God. And it's funny, like, so I was shooting on that bow I had the prophecy on. Never had a problem with that bow. I don't know if I got a little bit of water in it somehow or something happened. Moisture seemed like it got in the rest itself, because when back, like I have my bow inside the house, inside the garage, it's warm. And then I was going out to shoot in, like, we're talking like minus 15, minus 20 degrees Celsius. And I'd shoot a couple arrows and hang my bow up, walk up, get my arrows, come back. And then on like the third time, the rest didn't fall down. It froze.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. And it froze, knocked the veins right off my arrow. And I was like, that's what happened there. And then I go to check it, and I was like, I thought maybe it just got locked up. Maybe the spring or something broke inside of it. Take it inside, hang it up, go to look at it later, and it's working fine. I was like, what the fuck? So I was like, oh, maybe just something happened. Never had a problem with that rest before, ever. And I've shot a few of those rests. Love them. And then the same thing. And then I talked to AAE, and they're like, well, you just loosen the screws and spray a little bit of lube in there, and you shouldn't have a problem. And I haven't had a problem since. Of course, mind you, we haven't had those crazy temperatures that we did. But yeah, pretty interesting. Just a funny story about moisture in the coast there.
Oh yeah, it definitely happens, and that's kind of the environment where you're hunting also kind of helps dictate how much servicing of your equipment you need to do, right?
Yeah.
You live on the coast, all that salt air, whatever, like you're going to have more servicing of the bow you have to do, more things you've got to take apart, more issues you're going to have to deal with, more things you've got to pay attention to. So,
yeah. How about dust? Because I know, like, pretty dusty where I live normally, in like where Corey lives, really dusty climate. How about dust? Does that play into a factor? Like, does that stuff get into your cams? We should be doing anything with those, the bearings in your cams?
It can. The bearings, what I found, they're not serviceable. Like, you're not going to go in and re-grease them. If you have a bearing issue, then you need a new cam or new bearings. So I'll be honest, I hate to pick on any manufacturer. I'm not really picking on them. The Matthews, especially like the SDXs and that era of bows, those bearings would have issues. Or I've had the most failure out of those bearings that I've seen in the shop, and had to replace those. But for the most part, the bearings are all sealed, and I don't really have an issue, with dust. I have some people that beat that living crap out of their stuff, and still seems to function fine when I take it apart, put it back together. When I do take cams off, I generally check the bearings. So I make sure there's not any side to side wobble. And then literally I will spin the cam as fast as I can just to see if it's smooth. I don't want to feel any grittiness or anything else, right? That's about the best check I've come up with to look for those issues.
Yeah, I'm pretty rough on my bow. I'm going to share a picture here with you, Chris. Some guy I know, a buddy of mine, he brought me his bow, and he's like, oh, something happened to my cam here. I'll put it up on the screen there. Can you guys see that?
Ouch.
Look at that thing.
Wow. I'd say something happened.
That's for shooting around trees.
Fuck did you do to that thing? And he's like, oh, I stopped sharing here. And I was like, what did you do to that thing? And he didn't want to fess up what he did, but the bottom one doesn't look much better. So I'm still to this day kind of trying to figure out what the hell he did to that bow to get there. I mean, like, I'm pretty rough on my bow. Mostly like just truck it through the bush. Like this, you know, I got a 15-inch stabilizer. If I'm hiking, man, I use that thing like a walking stick sometimes. You know, I'm walking through the bush. I got my bow up in front of me, like all these things you shouldn't do. But like when you're in it, like you chase an elk or going after, you know, a critter, like, man, you just want to get there as fast as you can.
I'm horrible for. I take my top cam, and it goes in the gravel, the dirt, all the things all the time, and then my stabilizer, I'll kind of just use it kind of between my legs to hold the bow while I'm glassing. So I have two hands to glass with, you know, and the bows, the top cam's just shoved in whatever, you know, like I'm even horrible that way, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you could tell too, like you look at the bottom, like from even just shooting, and like, it's funny. I have a hook. I shoot along my fence line and it's 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20. And I have a hook on each one, but still bows down against the fence and you can see the bottom part of the cam and the string. The serving's all worn out after a while, and then the cam's there's no paint left on it. Same with the bottom of the stabilizer. It's like, but I mean, that's like, I've come to accept it, man. I'm just like, I shoot a lot and I'm just hard on my bows. That's why I go through, you know, that's kind of why I get one every year.
I did see one company came out with a cam specifically on the bottom that has a little bump in it. And it's specifically, was that the Hoyt? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the new Hoyt one. Yeah.
Specifically to keep that string just off the ground when you set it down, if you've got the hooks or whatever to put it down. And I thought, well, at least somebody's thinking a little bit whether that completely saves it or not.
Well, I wonder if that has, say that little thing gets bent over a little bit, and then like now we're going through a rotation and it has a little for that string to flip, you know, when the cam rolls, now the string has to glide off of that. If it's got a little bump or a little bit of a curve to it.
It depends on how big it is. Yeah.
It seems pretty beefy.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to use their kickstand thing, whatever the hell they call it. I don't even. I don't remember what they call it, but yeah, I do mine opposite top cam. It's just kind of what I've done forever. Just because the stabilizer's where it sits like against my leg, I can actually like pinch it so that the bow doesn't fall over. Because I've had that happen a couple times. Hits a rock or something else. Like, oh, great, you know.
Yeah.
Never good when you're hunting. It's like dropping a rifle, right? It's like, a shit. Now is this thing actually still sighted in?
That's the worst feeling ever, is when something happens to your bow. You lean it up against the tree or something to take a piss, and then it, like, you turn over and it's on the ground. You're like, do I keep going? Should I go back and check it? It's like, man, just like you said, just like a rifle. It's like, God.
Drop it on the opposite side to offset what just happened.
I have taken a fall before.
I'm good.
I've taken a fall before while hunting, and you know, literally bent a cam. It was just like, this is not good, you know. So things can happen, man.
I think honestly, if it's gonna go, it would suck, but I would rather have something obvious than having second guesses and then have an opportunity where you're like, son of a bitch, it is out or something's off.
I tell you a funny story, and I will mention the manufacturer because it wasn't their fault, I don't think, but I was heading up hunting and I had my bow in the passenger seat, but it was down on the floorboard, right? At least part of it was. And it's cold as crap out. I got the heater on. I got the floor heater going on my feet. And I hear this really loud pop, and I'm looking around. I'm like, what the hell happened? And I hear a second really loud pop, and I'm like, what the freaking hell? And I'm looking all over because I can't figure out what it is. I'm thinking, like, you know, so I stopped the truck. I'm like, what in the heck? Because it was loud. Open the door and I look down, and both of my limbs on my bow are cracked. They had delaminated because of the heat from the.
Oh, man.
So
man, that's crazy though. Like you think.
Resins should be able to handle that. That's not.
Yeah, I mean, so luckily, you know, living in Oregon, I live close to the manufacturer, and so, you know, it happened to be a Sunday, so I lost one day hunting. I drove down there Monday, got brand new limbs put on it, and got back to hunting. But I was just like, yeah, you want to talk about obvious? Pick your bow up and have your, you know, have your limbs sitting, at a completely different angle than they're supposed to be, and they're cracked in the middle.
Yeah, I've had like E-clips fall off before and like go to pull it full draw, and all of a sudden your bow's just like, you're like, oh, what the? Look up and like your axle's pulled off your limb.
Ooh.
There's lots of just lots of stuff that it happens. And you're like, what the fuck happened there?
And that's even kind of crazy, because getting one of those axles out under load is a giant pain in the butt.
Well, I don't even know like how many times it could have been like that for a while. I could have just kept pulling on it. I mean, I never check those E-clips.
Well, and sorry to interrupt, but that brings you to a good point. Like the things that we should be doing now, right? I guess I just I'm so used to doing it. It's hard for me to, remember everything, but it's like going through your bow, making sure that everything is still there. Like,
for sure.
The E-clips are still on, everything's tight.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, the E-clips are the little clips that hold your axles on, and the axles is what your cam slides. That's what holds your cam to your limbs. And there's little clips on there. They look like a C-clip with little notches on them. They call them E-clips. So make sure those are on. And one thing that while we're talking about that's a good point. I noticed when I got back after the last hunt I did in the beginning of January, that one where my bow was all rusted up, and it was all rusted. I was going through all the screws, and I noticed there was a screw from the mod to the cam that was missing. Actually,
really?
Yeah, one had fallen out, which is like, if the other one would have fallen out, then that mod would have fell off, right?
Yeah, or worse. So I've seen them back out and actually had a string get wedged.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
And then the guy shot and it cut the string, and bow blew up.
Oh
wow.
I've had that happen to somebody. That actually, I put that bow back together. He had brand new strings, not last summer, but he had got them. I'm trying to think here. His strings were only like 6 months old, and had completely retuned his bow. And he called me up, and he's like, I need another set of strings. And it was because just, something had come loose, which, that's all the stuff we should be checking right now. Make sure everything. The other thing, when I tear bows apart, if the cams come off or the axle comes out, anytime an axle comes out, I roll it on a table, make sure that it's still perfectly straight, and that we don't have any wobble to it, that it hasn't bent over time or gotten weak or been hit hard enough, something. So that's just one of those little things to check.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so PSE, I was shooting that Fortis last year, and they came out with those the shims that you could just pull them in and out. Those things don't stay in very well. I noticed on a mule deer hunt in October, 2 of them were gone.
Oh wow.
So that makes it, that's not good, because that is going to there's going to be play now in your cam.
Yep.
Like, I just used the other bow that I had with me. But that's one thing to notice while we're talking about just checking your equipment. Like, that's why it's good to understand your bow, like not just to grab it and shoot it, but to actually have an understanding of what how your bow is put together and what everything does on your bow. Like, I know how many guys, Chris, come to you and they need a D-loop tied.
Oh, tons.
Yeah. And like, to me, that's a fun, like, everyone should know how to tie their own D-loop.
Yeah. And they're actually very easy. I mean, YouTube in 30 seconds, and you know how to tie a D-loop, you know, and you should be carrying, an extra D-loop cord with you when you're out hunting. Like, you should have one pre-cut, pre-burn on the ends, and be able to put it on, and
I know so many guys that go on archery hunts, or like here in BC, early archery, like they're hunting through the archery season, which is 9 whole days, but they don't have anything. Like, they don't even have a bow kit. They don't even have wax with them. It's like, what happens if your D-loop gets caught on a twig or something, or you tear it, and like,
serving material, like a little bit of serving material. Back in the day, I used to carry floss because I could reserve my peep with floss if I didn't have serving material. That was before I actually had a shop and I had any serving material, and that's what was available. Like,
make stuff work.
I mean, worst case, I could make it work, but peeps will move, things will happen. So,
I've
having
pulled a peep sight off my bow while I'm hunting. I don't know how the hell I did it. I'm assuming it must have got caught on like just going through some thick stuff,
Yeah, like
some
sticks
thick
and
aldery
stuff.
shit.
Yeah.
And just like I'm assuming a little twig or something must have gone through it, and then I turned or something and just like pulled my bow back and it ripped the thing right out. Because I know when I was late, I don't know when it happened, but I'm looking at my bow and I'm like, where the fuck is my peep sight out of my bow? It's not there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny you say about the D loop. Actually, a guy from work, his dad had a good moose tag and he had a moose at like 30, 40 yards. And their D loop on that bow he was using was just frayed to shit. And he went to put his release in and it slipped half drawn or 3/4 drawn, slipped out and launched an arrow right underneath the bull. And he was like a 50-inch bull.
Oh man.
And it's like the warning signs were all there. It's all frayed to shit. It's like half worn. Like,
yeah, that's the
fix
one thing
that.
on a D loop. You don't want to see any fraying. You see any
No.
fraying, replace that damn thing.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have come in and said they punched themselves in the face and launched an arrow into their wall or their car or who the hell
Yeah.
knows because their D loop was frayed, like
I've done I did that. I remember when I first, like, I think it was the first D loop I ever tied. I go to strap my bow on and I got it and I'm like, whoa, and the whole D loop just lets go and I'm like, oh. But I mean, like that, if that happens, it's better to happen there and just keep learning and practicing and tying, because like these things are the fundamental things that I think everybody should know. Like number one is how to tie a D loop. Like number one, like but even like I see guys bows, I see guys shooting at the range all the time and like they have no knock points on their bow, which blows me away.
Yeah. I
Like-
used to do 2 knock points. I do 1 now.
Mhm.
Just that way it's not as spread apart.
Yeah. I used to do 1 and now I'm back to 2. But yeah, you're right. It keeps them spread apart a little bit. But I like a little longer D loop. I like a little bit of play in my D loop. Just my personal preference.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. And that has to do with, I think this length of your D loop has to do with what kind of release you're shooting as well. Because if you're shooting like a wrist strap, you're not going to have as much twist on the cable or on the string.
Yeah, mine's a little longer too for a thumb release because you're twisting it, right?
Yeah, and when that cable is like, depending on your let off, when that string is at full draw, there's, it's pretty pliable. You can move it quite a bit. And if it's really short and I turn my anchor points, like I turn it quite a bit. So that's going to have some effect on my string. So that's why I like a little longer loop.
And talking about inspecting your bow, I know because if you're shooting a carbon, it's probably a must that you should go from top to bottom real thoroughly, looking at your stuff closely. I know quite a bit of friends that shoot carbons and they'll find cracks near limb pockets. They'll find cracks on their riser at any harsh bend, especially with the old like tube style Hoyts and stuff like that. I know a friend of mine, he had a Defiant and he had a crack in his riser, and you'll just see that paint, just something weird with that paint, and he just kind of flaked it off a little bit and he found a crack. So, then too, like if you're hunting in rock, you probably should check your limbs. I had a limb kind of crack, and then I'm like about a month or 2 from season, and it just got ignored, and then all of a sudden it splintered and pulled up, just from like whacking it on a rock. And you'll see that carbon limb kind of start to splinter and split up.
Well, we have a friend who's on a whitetail hunt this man, I think it was in November or something. He was in Saskatchewan on a whitetail hunt. He was sitting 6 days in like minus 35 degrees Celsius weather. On day number 6, a big whitetail comes in and he goes to draw his bow back, and the epoxy let go on his, like where he's running a dovetail, the epoxy that dovetail sits into your burger hole.
Mm-hmm.
That fell out and his whole rest pulled off his bow.
I believe it. Luckily, I have access to a carbon fiber specialist at work, so he gave me some good stuff to kind of fix it myself. But it's when your limb or something in your riser starts going, that's a pretty big warning. Like I always think about that, like what aren't you seeing? Because at work we deal with carbon fiber all the time, and usually you have to like delaminate it in layers and go further and further out, and you'll see that crack on the interior of it go farther and farther out. And that's just part of carbon. Like it's really durable, but it doesn't like being impacted.
Yeah, which is like, you think for a bow, how much impact? It's coming
Yeah,
off
well,
of
and
everything
once
before.
you get one, once you crack it, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's it, from what everything I've understood, it's kind of like, oh, it's basically deemed unsafe at that point
Yeah.
Yeah.
and send
What-
it and get it fixed. But
Do you see a lot of issues with carbon bows? Like, I guess these new ones, they're so like, well, then you get into like how light manufacturers are trying to make these bows. Like you shoot that pick up that PSC, that levitator, that Mach 34,
yeah.
man. Those things are
I
paper
have
light.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really see issues with the carbon unless something has happened, right?
Mhm.
A guy fell climbing some boulders or something. I had a customer literally drive over his. He
Oh.
set it against his back tire when he got to his truck, put his pack away, took a piss, got in the truck,
Oh no.
backed up, and drove
Classic.
over. Like, okay,
Classic.
that's a problem. But
That
otherwise,
happens a lot though, I think, because I know
Oh.
a handful of guys that have done that. I know guys like my dad did that with his rifle, drove right over his rifle, put
Oh shit.
Yeah.
his bow or his rifle against the back of his truck, took it off his sling, put it against the back truck, took a piss, got inside, drove back over it, got back to camp, couldn't find his rifle. We go up there and his big smiley face, right? His bow or his rifle got hit right. It's
Shit.
like,
I've left knives on my bumper before, and like surprisingly, I had one. I drove all the way from the coast here to about an hour and a half drive on a windy road, and my knife was still sitting on my bumper
oh yeah.
when I got home.
So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I'm driving to work. Like, we're kind of getting off topic here, but I'm driving to work the other day, and I'm driving to work, and I'm almost at the job site, and I'm looking on my. For some reason, I didn't notice it, but I looked down on my hood, and there's a couple arrows sitting there, and I'm like, and they're my son's arrows. So after he was done shooting, he put his arrows on the hood of my truck. I don't know how many were there at the beginning, but when I pulled over and there was still two, and I was like, what the fuck? So when he got home from school, I'm like, hey buddy, where's your arrows? And he's like, oh, I think they're in the shop. I'm like, you better go check. And he's like, oh, they're not there. They're not outside either. I'm like, oh, well, I got two of them in the front seat of my truck. I don't know how many you had, but the rest of them are probably on 3rd Street down when I turn the corner down there. So yeah, but I've done the same thing. I mean, like I've put rangefinders on the hood of my car, or my hunting rig or the bumper. Like everyone's done it.
Yeah.
Why fishing rods? Oh man. Don't put them where you can't see them. I don't know how many times slam the door. And then your rod's smashed and tip's gone and like anything like that. I'm just super paranoid about that now.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Well, and speaking of trucks, just maintenance, not a maintenance thing, but like, don't leave your damn bow in your truck, especially in the summertime. Like that is the worst freaking thing you can, especially for strings. Not as much the bow itself, but the strings.
Yeah, you think, and like those archery shoots we go to, sorry to cut you off, Chris. Those
right.
archery shoots, and like guys are like, they're paranoid about their bows. They go, it's 35 degrees Celsius. It's got to be 70 degrees in the front of that vehicle. And their bow is sitting in there, and you're like, man, that thing is going to freaking melt. And then they get out, they go to grab it to shoot, and it's hot to hold, and they're like, oh, something's off here. It's like, well, no shit, man.
Yeah, your string's just completely stretched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be lucky if you're making, 65 pounds anymore on a 70-pound bow. Like, your cam timing's all off. So, rests are another one. Like, you guys were talking about hunting in really cold weather. I've seen rests freeze before.
Well, we were just talking about mine. Yeah, too.
Yeah, they won't drop. So freeze from just the cold. But, rests are one of the things that, are going to be the first thing to go on a bow beside the string. Like they're going to be the first thing that has problems, depending on the type you have. A lot of them you can't take apart. You can't deal with the interior components.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have no idea, not to offend anyone, but the ones that are the hardest to deal with are like the ripcords, or and I'm drawing a blank now, but the what's the other drop away? There's not drop away, but the QADs. you know, the ones that you can't take apart. Like a ham ski, you can take the ham ski apart. You could literally deal with all the components if you wanted to. Trophy takers, I think you could take apart. But then tuning wise, the biggest issue I ever run into when guys have the cable driven rests is the fact that they are not timed correctly. And that is a massive, massive issue. Guys put them in and yeah, this looks about right, and out the door. And people don't seem to understand how much those affect everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that because I know how to time mine properly. And I prefer a cable driven. Like I've shot Hemsky, I've shot a lot of limb driven rests. I prefer the cable driven only because I'm just really like when I'm hunting, I like to have my arrow in the locked position. And it's just,
yeah, there's nothing wrong with those rests at all. I'm not trying to say that they're bad rests. My only complaint is, as the springs start to wear out, you're only going to notice that if you shoot a lot, you start getting weird flight because it's not dropping as fast. But it's the people that put them on that don't time them right. That's the biggest problem I have with those. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter any brand. I don't care what brand. It's any cable driven rest. If not timed correctly on the cable, it's a problem. And it's a big problem.
One thing I have noticed about cable driven rests over the years is that if you can't adjust your cables with your cable guide, you can't, like, if you put it when you put it in the drawboard, you'll actually notice the pull that your rest cable has on your string, on your outside string, how much it actually pulls. And like on that PS, on the Omen, I noticed big time it was actually wearing out the cables from such pressure pulling them. It pulls on the cable that's going down and it crosses across the one going up. And you could actually see the wear point where those actual two were rubbing from shooting so much.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so I was just going to say, we're talking about launchers and issues with rests. After that mule deer hunt I went on where I was doing all those stalks, I noticed just like so this is the Elevate 2.0, just making sure that you're checking your launcher. Like the launcher it's almost like two laminations, and I had actually cracked this housing. It cracked, and so it was like loose and flopping around, and just making a shot. I made a shot on a deer, and my launcher, like, it hit with such force, it hit the riser. This was cracked. And then just if you're not checking your stuff quite a bit, you'll see this whole cage, like, it is kind of flexible. It actually cracked the bottom, and then the launcher itself, it cracked and then bent. So then when I went to go check, and I drew back my bow just to see what was going on, and I could see that my launcher was now sitting wonky, and so then my arrow flight was out of tune. I had to kind of shut her down. Hey, so just checking stuff and like knowing, like, you have a rest, it's not going to last forever. You have to check stuff. You have to do general maintenance on stuff and just checking things. Like, there's only how many thousand arrows that you can put through that rest before it's going to have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have the parts, because I had to order them in, and it's like, okay, I'm taking a different setup now. Like, if I don't have the parts to maintain that rest and then it's obsoleted, then you're just going to have to go buy a new rest.
So, yeah, which is unfortunate because, man, rests nowadays they're not cheap. And like you said, Chris, a lot of these you can't work on. So that's one thing to think of when you're buying a rest, is to make sure you can do maintenance on it.
Yeah, luckily I actually had messaged John Dudley, and he told me which kit to buy, and really good stuff. Like some, and that's what I think about now is more so is I'll look at what's the support for what I'm buying, like. And I should probably buy the repair kits for the cage and springs and stuff like that, just so I have it ready, because, then you can get a lot more life out of your setup.
Yeah. And that's one of the nice things about working with a smaller company is like customer service. Cause like you can actually get a hold of them. Some of these bigger companies, man, it's like, we'll leave a message and we'll get back to you if we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Buy a new one.
A lot of them, that's how they are. They're just like, we'll just go buy a new one. And which is unfortunate because some of those like you really do love. But like I said, when I messaged AAE, they got back to me right away.
Yeah.
But I know
Yeah.
like I've had issues before with like the QAD. I've had lots of issues. I used to primarily just shoot a QAD, and then I had an issue with one of them. I don't even remember. And then I was like, well, fuck you guys. I'm not going back to shooting. There's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, I think, realistically, if we have time, I'd like to explain at least what it affects, because you talked about how it pulls on the cable. So for cable driven rests, what people don't understand is if you have the cord too tight where it comes to full activation too early, it starts pulling on the down cable.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you pull on the down cable, right, you've now changed that cable length.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, your cam timing is going to be off, and you start having left to right issues. So now you've got, one of your cams is going to be out of time, hitting too soon. So people start trying to correct that. What happens, what I see all the time is people, okay, well, I'm going to correct my cam timing. And then, I've got left to right issues. So now I've got to shim the cams and things like that. Where if you actually time that rest correctly to where it doesn't come to full activation, meaning the cord isn't actually tight until about the last, what I tell people is look at the draw stops. If you're within a ½ inch of that draw stop hitting, that's the range where you want that cable to be fully tight. Not before, but you can't go too far after, because then there's not enough movement in the cable still to get to full activation, because that last little bit. So it's a real fine range. What I found is that puts the least amount of stress on the cable. It doesn't pull it into the other cable. So your up cable doesn't pull the down cable into it, or very little at least. And it doesn't tweak your cam timing, because what actually happens is if your cam timing's off and you try and adjust around that, now you've got an arrow that's not actually flying level to start with. And it just creates all sorts of issues. So it's really critical to get that timing to where that activation cord isn't tight and actually putting any undue stress on the cable until the very last little cycle that you can. Like, if it literally comes to full lock position or full ready position or whatever you want to call it, full activated position in that last ½ inch, that's the sweet spot. Puts the least amount of stress on the other cables and has the potential to, has the least amount of potential to affect other things. Because you pull on one of those cables, again, now you got left to right. Now you're shimming cams over, and what you're actually trying to do is tune around a different problem. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does for sure.
I got one question for you, Chris.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about
here, Corey, I'll put you up on the big screen.
So right in this area in here on the, I should go like that.
Can you pull that? Are you able to pull that there you go, quiver off?
So is that typically, because I've seen online like some guys with some of their carbon risers, they're seeing like a wear mark either right in here or right in there. Is that because their cable is like they're too tight? That's wearing out.
It's not necessarily it's too tight. It's just that it's rubbing on it, but it could be that it's, that being too tight is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's going to have to be tight at some point, but it shouldn't be tight enough that it's rubbing that carbon too hard to start with.
Yeah. Cause like I'll be online on Facebook and I'll see like some of the archery buy and sells, and guys will talk about like on some of their risers, they'll say like, oh yeah, like there's a bunch of paint. How many shots do you put? Like 400. And there's already paint gone. I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, there will probably always inherently be a small spot where it's rubbed off some, but that should take time.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be a big spot. If it's rubbing an inch long, all right, you're again, it's timed incorrectly. And that is just the number one thing that I see when bows come in with cable driven rests. That's the
Corey,
number one tuning issue.
Bow back up there again?
Yep.
You got your bow in hand. Okay. Chris, We'll let that thing focus.
I'll focus it.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Do you see what about, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. Do you see what about location of where you're tying it to your cable? Does that have any, should you guys be worried about that?
I would say not too much. You don't want them too short. Some of the older bows that have the down cable is actually much shorter where the serving is. I can't like pinpoint it for you, but essentially, right, you want to be below that serving if the serving's long enough. That looks like a great position to me where his is tied in. I usually will actually right where the serving ends on the down cable, as long as it's long enough. I will. That's where I'll put it through.
That's right where it is. Right
Yeah.
where
Okay.
it ends on the serving. Yeah.
You know, now on some of the older bows, the serving would be shorter on the down cable because it doesn't need to be that long, because it's not going through the roller guard, or it's not going through right, that lower serving where that is never going to even come close to that roller guard, right? So on some of the older bows, you literally it's almost like pulling straight. I don't know how else to describe it, but you know, on the rest, that down cable for a standard cable slide, a lot of times the serving's much shorter. So, you know, I would suggest that you're, what is that, like 4 inches, maybe? You know,
Yeah, it looks like he's just below his grip there, right above where his string.
Yeah, I
his
think
string
that's a
stop is.
good place. You don't want to go a lot farther than that. You don't need to, you know, and the serving works as a good stop for putting it through the cable. I don't know if you guys put yours through the cable or tie it on, but
I
actually
put mine through my cable.
Yeah, I put it through the cable, you know, and then you can tie it on. You can burn the end like a D loop. I've never had one pop out when you've mushroomed out the end, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you just got to think about the thing with cable driven is the effect it can have on the bow is very profound. Why do we twist a cable? We twist a cable to change things. We're changing length. That changes cam timing. That can put lean on a cam, right? Well, twisting a cable won't necessarily, but if you have a yoke or something, it will. But that cable driven rest can pull on that cable. And if you move that cable left to right, now you've induced lean on a cam. Now you've changed, you know, your center shot, grip, things like that. So again, trying to not have to tune around that. I'm just a big advocate for having the bow, having center shot be center shot, having the cams timed, having the arrow as level as possible, and not having any outside interference move those things, you know, to make the bow as efficient and as quiet and as smooth and as everything it can be.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think the last time you were on is just, you know, with the bows are manufactured to be run on like a square or a T. They're not made to, you know, you see some guys. Remember that guy that a couple years ago, Pete, at the archery shoot? Remember how far he had his rest out?
Yeah, it just, good guy. Just, trying to do stuff on his own without really knowing what he's doing. I think watching too much YouTube stuff and just, not double checking on stuff. It was so obvious. Like, do we hear his arrow? His arrow was hitting the riser. Was it in too far? I think it was in too far.
In too far. His veins were hitting the inside of his riser. That's how far he had that rest off in.
Yeah, I had a customer come to me that he drew back on a bull out elk hunting, and his arrow fell off. And I couldn't figure out why. So he came to me. He's like, my arrows my broadheads keep falling off. The broadhead was hitting the riser.
Oh.
And pulling off the string. Because the shop that he went to get it to shoot a bullet hole through paper, they moved that rest so far in that a field point was fine. But a broadhead would hit the riser, and they also cut his arrows like
way too short,
fairly short.
Way too short. That's okay. Well, while we're on that conversation, let's talk a little bit about the like arrow length. Like, how far should guys? I mean, this varies obviously from person to person and bow to bow, but like, how far should that arrow be sticking out past the riser? Typically, that you'd like to see.
Personally, I cut them flush with the end of the riser.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that before or after you put a footer on there, or that's where you cut them?
I mean, the footer doesn't add length. The footers I build, they don't add any length to the arrow. So I make them just flush, and maybe just a little farther out, 1/4 inch, something, essentially. If somebody were to, because like you said, a string is really pliable at full draw, right? I don't want somebody torquing, twisting, something happens, they move that string, because if you ever do it, your arrow will move. I mean, it's sitting here, you can do this, right? So I just have it far enough out that there's no way the broadhead's going to hit the riser. I tell people all the time, they're like, what about my fingers? I'm like, well, that's your problem. Like,
Yeah.
You can get too far out, like, because you start changing the spine dynamic of the arrow the longer you get. So for me, it's just pretty much even with the end of the riser. It's where I'm really comfortable. That's where I tell people. I know, like with some arrow setups, Valkyrie, they like to have it as short as possible, so they have them farther back. That's what they recommend for their customers.
Right.
But I just shoot mine. My own personal setup is the arrows right at or just in front of the end of the riser.
Yeah, my brother, talking about cutting your finger, so he doesn't have, his finger got cut off right there, and he doesn't have any feeling really in his finger. Like a lot of the times he doesn't know, like it just floats around. And he was shooting he's shooting like iron wills, and like, so when he's holding his bow, this finger kind of like floats, eh? And the iron will fucking the broadhead hit his finger and cut his finger pretty good.
I used to have a problem with fletching, hitting my finger,
like
the way my hand just positioned on the bow.
Yeah,
I could feel the fletching hit it every once in a while as it went by.
Yeah, well, and like the older bows too, they didn't have, like on the grip, like all the new bows now, you see the grip is built in to actually protect, to have a little bit of a guard there, to hold it against your fingers. Because a lot of guys, I mean, like some of these old bows, and especially like I don't like a really wide grip, so I used to always pull the grips off my bow, and that just allows your hand to slide up a little bit more. Yeah, and I mean, depending on the type of vein you're running, you could easily enough nick your finger.
Yeah, luckily it was never a broadhead, but yeah. So I just wanted to bring the rest thing up. That's just a huge thing. Guys are getting new rests this time of year, and it's
Yeah.
The limb driven are not a problem because you're not going to affect that limb.
Yeah,
like you're not going to pull on that limb hard enough to really affect it. If you are, like, kudos for being Superman, and having your shit still stay in place.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys got anything to add? Well, we're talking about Pete, you got to have something in there.
I don't know. You pretty much covered everything.
Guy at your caliber of shooting.
Oh, fuck. I just got to beat you. That's the only thing that matters.
I mean, there's all sorts of rabbit holes we could always go down on all this stuff. There's a new string fiber that just got introduced at the Vegas shoot. Actually, I don't think they did it at ATA. That's supposed to be great. We'll see.
Yeah, Ken was talking to the guy that owns Hardcore up here. He was talking about that because he was just down in Vegas at the Vegas shoot. He was talking about this new. We were talking about strings because I was getting some new strings made.
Yeah, it's something 99, but it's not the old SK 99. It's not the old 99 that they used to have.
Yeah.
And it's just a different blend. Actually, Austin from High Voltage, he's using it. He, I guess, helped develop it or something. And he says it's great, and I have a lot of trust in him. I'm still like, well, you know what? I'm going to keep shooting my 452X until I know for sure the stuff's rock solid.
Yeah, let someone else test it out.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
Yeah, it's always hard being that guy, the tester guy.
Yeah.
Guinea pig.
Yeah, I can't remember who we were talking with E3 as well. I remember looking at the different materials and stuff, and I think I'd be curious as to what exactly it is. But yeah, it was something 99 as well for the newer blend.
I think it was just a premium blend of 99 that they were using.
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly it's the colors are brighter, more vibrant. The strand fibers are not as thick, so they can, they're being able to keep they actually could have a higher string count, but still keep the thickness of the fibers down. Right, because that's one of the things that happens is when guys build strings, it could be 17 strand, it could be 21 strand, but it depends on the color because of the thickness of the die and all those things, right? So the higher the strand count, the less likely you are to have anything move, change, do anything else. So we can get a higher string count, but still keep the right diameter. Then you've got, you got the best of both worlds.
Interesting.
Yeah,
But again,
I mean,
that's something a string builder. I am not. I know how to tune a bow.
yeah.
I don't get too much into all the really in-depth things with the strings.
With
Yeah,
with a
and I
higher
think
string
that
count. Sorry, Kevin. With a higher string count, being a smaller fiber, are you able to achieve? I don't know the exact word. Just a more round surface area of that string versus like a thicker fiber. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, more
I
of
don't know
a
if that
more of
makes-
an actual circle. I know what you're saying, Pete. More of a tighter circle, like an actual. If you're thinking of a circle, building a circle, and inside that to achieve that perfect circle, you're using strings, and you're just adding and to build that. And now, if you have bigger strands, it's not going to be as tight of a circle as it would be with smaller.
Yeah, potentially. Again, I'm not sure. Austin posts pictures all the time.
Yeah, I'll check him out. I'll put him up.
of
I'll put his link up so the guys watching on YouTube, they can check it out right now.
him checking with calipers, the diameter, and he gets into all that. He geeks out on that stuff a ton.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those rabbit holes you can get down going down. And I mean, guys that are listening, don't get too caught up on that stuff. At the end of the day, you got to go and shoot your bow.
Yeah. Exactly. I think the real good take is, guys, learn to do the basics.
Mm-hmm.
You really should, and learn to understand why things affect things. Because what I'll tell you is there are some really great pro shops out there. There are, and there are some very knowledgeable people, but there are a lot that, I mean, you don't have to go to any sort of school to own a bow shop, right? You don't have to actually be good. I had literally there's one shop down here, and I don't ever mention names, but every freaking bow that ever comes in from that place, every bow is so jacked up. Like I posted a picture on Instagram the other day, 2 of them. And you look at how that was a brand spanking new Matthews. Brand new. And that was tuned. And that arrow buried my level. I can't even tell you how knock high it is.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now. I'll put it up so people. Oh yeah. Yeah, what's going on there?
That's how it came in. That was tuned to them. Cam timing
They
was
left
off.
the shop. So okay, like I've heard of guys before. They have this theory that when their bow, like they like their arrow level off a little bit, so when they're at full draw, it's going to level itself out. And I've never really understood this.
It's only going to do that if cam timing's off.
Yeah, like I've never understood it. I guess if you're pulling harder on one cam, like if you have to pull through and then your string string stopping here, but it's still pulling at the top, I guess it will.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I guess it'll fall down or go up to make it so it's level at full draw. But yeah, because your cam timing, it's got to be the same it's got to be the same on both your upper and lower cams. So
that's
one
why
thing I never understood. What
if it's a true, you do cam and a half where the cams are a little different and blah 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 blah. But these new bows, the cams are identical top and bottom. The cable lengths are identical for the up and down cables. Like there should be no difference. There's no reason to not run level or very, very, very close, right? The problem is the reason we don't run level sometimes is when we're not finding the true center of the bow. And the true center is not always where it measures necessarily. And there's all sorts of things. A slightly different cam deflection if it's off just a little bit through manufacturing. There are things that can change that. That's why, you've got to really play with it. That's why it takes time to tune a bow sometimes. I mean, sometimes I know that this bow, the arrow should run here because I've tuned enough of them that's where majority of them run. That's where I'm going to set it. If I have to change the cam timing a little bit and we're slightly knock high, right, like a 1/16 of an inch, not a big deal. Arrow's going to fly perfect. Broadheads are going to fly perfect. We're great. You know, but like that bow again, it buried my level at over, you know, it's got to be over a 1/2 inch knock high. That can't be good.
That's huge.
I can share it there so everybody who's watching this,
holy shit,
you guys can see what he's talking about there.
I mean, that left the bow shop like that.
That's crazy.
You know,
here's a cool one. We're getting off. Look at this. Sorry, you clicked me on there, and I got scrolling on your Instagram.
Yeah, so we found that during elk season.
That's insane. Look at that. That's a bone.
It's all healed over. That's an elk leg. And you can see where it started to heal over. So the bull we found. Well, we didn't find the head. I don't know if somebody killed it and just missed that, or you know, I don't know what happened, but we found most of the carcass, just no head, and you know, that's what we found. So I brought it home because I'm like, you know, I think that's pretty
cool.
Pretty cool. Put it with my collection of, you know, dead heads and other things. But
you think I found bears before with like broadheads in them, like broadheads in their hip. But I've heard of like people finding 22 bullets inside bears and stuff. But yeah, they're fucking tough, man. They just want to live.
We don't know exactly what it is, but we theorize. So my biggest buck I ever killed, 231 inches. And right above his eye, in between his eye and his horn, there was this big like lump. So when I went to the taxidermist, we caped the head out and started picking around in there. We couldn't tell if it was like an old, like, you know, bullet wound or piece of wood or whatever. At first, at least, we were kind of theorizing because the hole looked like in the hide looked like it was a bullet. What we think it ended up being was it was actually the tip of another antler.
Oh, crazy.
That had it. Cause when we got in there, it was all like the cartilage had built over the top of it, but it was just a white jello.
Really?
When we actually got it fully open and picked it apart, it was a white. It was like, is this just horn that's finally, you know, like starting to deteriorate, like the body's starting to eat it up or what? But it was like this white paste.
Oh, that's crazy.
That was inside. But you
know, hey, buddy, I gotta be honest with you here. I'm creeping on your Instagram. I'm going way back, and your hair looks a little different color here in some of these pictures.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, it's been
I've gotten old. I keep getting called Santa Claus now.
I know. Look at Pete. When were you on a couple years ago, and look how old he's gotten. I mean, he ages 2 years to my one, I think.
Yeah.
Corey down here, he's still look at him. He's fresh, but he's not even in his 40s yet. So
no.
You're not even in the consideration yet.
Yeah.
No, he's not experienced as the rest of us.
Do you even have a gray hair on that beard there?
Yeah, Corey? I do.
I turned 50.
I have 3 kids, so it's starting to show up with a baby.
I turned 50 in April. So I'm hitting that 50.
Yeah. Well, it's coming to all of us.
Yeah.
Fortunately. Yeah. I only got another half decade and then I'm 50. Pete looks a lot older than he is, so he's actually got 6 years.
Let's just, for the record, I've already been through 3 teenagers. Kevin's yet to hit there yet fully. So it's coming fast.
Yeah, I'm just dealing with that with Cohen.
Yeah.
He's 16, so he's driving around. So that's why the gray hair is showing up.
Well, I have a 22-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And my fiance has a 4-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Oh wow.
So I'm going backwards.
Yeah. Well, that's fun though, man. When they're 4, they're freaking a lot of fun. It's funny. Like my youngest is turning 8 here soon. And it's like, then you see like my nephew who's 4 and it's like, man, they're funny when they're 4 years old. They do a lot of funny shit. Not that they don't, like, even through like as they get older, it's just bonehead shit. I know with like my oldest, he's 12, and it's like, fuck, man. Like when you used to do this shit, it was cute. Now it's just fucking annoying. Like, where's your head at? Like, come on, pull it together here.
Oh yeah, I'm dealing with that. The 13-year-old, I love the kid, but I forgot how much I want to like strangle 13-year-old boys. Like they just drive me crazy. I'm like, but her 4-year-old daughter, I love that kid to death. And she's a little Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
But she's so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good age. Okay, buddy. It's been awesome to have you back on. And like guys that are listening to this and hopefully watching this, like go through your bow. Now's the time to look at it. Don't wait till 2 weeks before you're going to go hunting and start shooting. Well, I mean, really, you should be shooting still year round. Like, there's no excuse. Can't use the age-old excuse, well, there's not enough daylight in a day. I mean, you can shoot anywhere, shoot in your garage. Just keep those reps in.
Yeah, 10 yards, 5 yards, whatever, and then learn, use time right now. Wintertime, right? You're sitting inside. Learn as much about bows as you can, realistically. Learn to tie in D-loops, learn to tie in peeps, learn how to do a basic knock set, learn those things. Get on YouTube. I'll warn, YouTube, there's a lot of really bad content out there too, and a lot of people that don't know what the hell they're doing. Find reputable people. Tim Gillingham, knock on Dudley, Dudley's good.
Greg's got a lot of shit on there too, and like more on like I think on his Facebook page and his Instagram. But Greg Poole, he's got lots of good stuff on there on like tying rests and rest timing and stuff like that. So
yeah, those people, the wannabe Insta famous people, those are the people, quite honestly, no offense, that don't do it every day. And those people I'm not going to take a ton of advice from, per se. You can learn something good from everybody, but it's just, it's hard because there's so much bad content out there.
There are those little tips and tricks that do make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard one the other day. I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but it literally was driving me crazy listening to him talk about arrow builds and, how you have to do this and do that and why you don't do this. And it's just like, there was so much bad information and he's got a big platform. And I'm just thinking, man, you know what? Stick to working out because that's what you know. Tell people about fitness. That's what you know. Shut the hell up because I know what archery shop you go to and they don't know what they're doing either. And you're spewing their advice and it's just bad.
I thought you were talking about me there for a second until I realized until you said big
Kevin.
following.
No, not was not you.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, guys, it's been great, Chris. I'll throw all your stuff up and we'll get you on the show again here.
Yeah,
absolutely, pleasure.
Anytime,
nice
guys.
meeting you,
Appreciate
Chris.
it.
Yeah.
Later.
Please take care.
Bye.
Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA. Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.